Okay, so what I'm doing today is 5 shorter videos instead of one super long one. That way you can figure out what you need help on and you can watch the video that you need. So, first video, the one that we're currently in, we're going to talk about complex number basics. So, we're not going to learn everything there is to know about complex numbers in this first video, but just the basics. Namely, that I squared is equal to -1. That is huge. That's basically everything we need to know right here from the get-go. We can make this a flower pot if we want. It is flower pot worthy. That is a terrible flower pot, Mr. Rupert. Um, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing a flower pot. In fact, I think I have images over here. And one of them's a flower pot, but I don't. My content, one picture, flower pot. So there you go. This thing right here, I squared equals -1. It is flower pot worthy. Go ahead and memorize that. You need to know that. And because all of our rules will be based off of that. So anytime that you see I squared, go ahead and substitute -1 in for that I squared, and vice versa. If you see a -1, you can change it to an I squared. Reason being is for when we simplify radicals, which is coming up later. So let's take a look at what if I want to know, I don't know, I to the 10th power. What would that equal? Well, we learned in class that it's cyclical, and that if you start with I to the 0 power, that anything to the 0 power is 1, and I to the first power, anything to the first power is itself. So we've got 0, and then we've got itself, which is I, and then I just said you need to memorize that I squared is -1, and I cubed, if we evaluate similarly to how I'm going to show you I to the 10th, we would get -I. And so then it just repeats this cycle. So you could say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see that I to the 10th is probably going to be -1. How I did that, I to the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I to the 10th power is probably -1. But let's look at this. I to the 10th power is I to the second power. It is that 5 times. I to the second times I to the second times I to the second. And that's because when you multiply like variables that have exponents, you add their exponents. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I to the 10th is the same thing as I squared 5 times. Well, what did I just say? When you see I squared, you substitute in -1. So I to the 10th power is really equal to -1 times -1 times -1 times -1 times -1. At this point in time, if we had a calculator, we could plug that in and see that it would equal -1. Or when we don't have a calculator, we can see that -1 times -1 is +1. +1 times -1 is -1. -1 times -1 is +1. And then +1 times -1 is -1. So you can evaluate it out like we just did and get the answer, or you can remember that it is essentially this pattern repeating. This is I to the 0, this is I to the 1, this is I squared, and this is I cubed, and it will just repeat that pattern. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I to the 10th power would be -1. So the last thing about complex number basics are if I combine a real number, I don't know, say 5, and I want to add an imaginary number like, I don't know, let's say 6i. How we will always express this is the real number first and then the imaginary number. So we will see this 5 plus 6i, we will see that expression as 5 plus 6i. So if I flip the script on you and say I want to add, I don't know, 2i to negative 3, we would rewrite this as negative 3 plus 2i. And this is called a complex number. A real number plus an imaginary number gives us a complex, let me write it, complex number. That is all for video 1. Goodbye.